When the Samsung Galaxy S6 Edge was announced alongside with the S6 earlier this year, there was no arguing about Samsung's decision to push forward with curved screens. Between the two of them, we found the S6 Edge to be more fascinating with its dual curved display. So, considering that big phones are big business, it's no surprise at all to know that Samsung wants to take things to a grander scale. Now, some might think that one of its latest phablets is merely a larger edition of the S6 Edge, but that's not totally the case at all. The addition of this phone to Xiaomi's already diversified lineup is appreciated since it's actually trying to make a name for itself in the phablet world. Or is it just Samsung's way of trying to capitalize on what's hot and trending at the moment? Hey guys, John V from Phone Arena here. You're watching our video review of the Samsung Galaxy S6 Edge Plus. When looking at the phone, it's pretty obvious we're dealing with a larger size version of the Samsung Galaxy S6 Edge. That's not a bad thing because the metal and glass combination gives the phone its premium qualities. It looks good and also feels good because the metal trim bezel now is duller. It's not as sharp as before. And we do like how light bounces off the surfaces of the glass to give it a very cool shimmering effect. But it's still pretty slippery to hold in the hand, and it's still a fingerprint magnet. Even though it's still largely an attractive looking phone in the space, we're just kind of less enthused this time around with the design because it just merely replicates the design language of its sibling. You have most of the same features here in tow with the phone, so that includes things like the fingerprint sensor to unlock the phone, and it could also be used for a Samsung Pay. You have the heart rate sensor in the back to measure your pulse, the micro USB port on the bottom for rapid charging, and it even has built-in wireless charging as well. Even the placement of the buttons and ports are pretty much in the same positions as before. However, they've removed one feature, and that is the IR blaster. For us, this might be overlooked by most people, but we feel that it's a little bit unsettling because they were able to cram it into the tighter confines of the Galaxy S6 Edge, whereas with this phone, we have a lot more real estate to work with. What we have here is a 5.7-inch Quad HD Super AMOLED display, which is a step up in size from the 5.1-incher found with the Galaxy S6 Edge. Technically speaking, its pixel density is less at 518 pixels per inch, but still incredibly sharp and detailed. And by now, we know that Samsung has nearly perfected the art of producing perfectly calibrated screens. That's evident here because it's able to produce true-to-life colors despite some subtle anomalies. Its color temperature of 6700 Kelvin is close to their perfect reference value of 6500 Kelvin, so it doesn't appear too warm or cold. And while its 502 nit luminance is less than the Galaxy S6 Edge, it's still pretty visible outdoors. Beyond the specs and the objective benchmarks, the dual curved edges of the display is what makes it so unique looking. The curve is pretty much unchanged from the Galaxy S6 Edge, so it's subtle and it's not as dramatic as the one found on the Galaxy Note Edge. Of course, it's accompanied with certain features that aren't at the disposal of other displays, but the curved edges are still there primarily for the slick aesthetics. We'll talk more about its new features a bit later on. The Galaxy S6 Edge Plus and the Note 5 share the same up-to-date TouchWiz UI experience, which continues to follow Xiaomi's new principle of less is more. For the most part, it's still largely similar to what we've seen already with the S6 Edge from earlier this year, and so far it's been well received for its slimmed down offering. However, what's apparent here are the new features that pertain to its dual curved display. Naturally, it has all the same features from before, so you have the information stream that acts as notification tickers to show some useful content. You have edge lighting too that produces a colorful show when a particular contact is calling, although we still think it's kind of gimmicky because you have to place it down on the screen. And lastly, you have People Edge to give you quick access to some of your favorite contacts. There are a couple new things that you don't get with the S6 Edge. The first one, for example, is Apps Edge, which allows us to select up to 5 apps for quick access. Honestly though, it's just another way to multitask, but it's pretty useful because the tab is accessible from any screen and at any time. And secondly, the Edge screen tab can be positioned anywhere along its side, so you can position it somewhere convenient. We know that TouchWiz is more than capable of dealing with the most demanding users. It's incredibly powerful, and Samsung has spent a great deal of time understanding what users want in an experience, and they've responded by streamlining the interface and cutting out the redundancies. At the same time, however, we feel as though the dual curve display isn't being used to its potential. There are only a bare handful of new features in tow, but they're nothing really significant in the greater scheme of things. And the more we think about it, the overall package brought on by its dual curve display still doesn't encompass the more meaningful set we've seen already with the Galaxy Note Edge. Frankly, it needs more added onto it because right now, the aesthetics is generating more interest. It's employing the same processing hardware used by the existing S6 line, so it ships with the latest Exynos 7420 system chip. It's an octa-core processor with 4 Cortex-A57 cores running at up to 2.1 GHz, and 4 more power-efficient A53 cores clocked at up to 1.5 GHz. What's different from the S6 Edge, though, is that it's complemented with 4 GB of RAM. All this translates to a phone that just runs as quick and snappy as the rest of the S6 line. Apps launch instantly, operations are accompanied with buttery responses, and scrolling around the home screen is smooth. Over on the graphics processing performance side, the Mali T760 MP8 GPU delivers acceptable results for a phone going with Quad HD resolution. Although it's not class-leading in the GFX bench test, we have to remember that it's contending with Quad HD resolution. Samsung has traditionally been a company that offers one of the best cameras on Android, and this one doesn't disappoint either with its 16 megapixel rear camera and 5 megapixel front snapper. They're both accompanied with wide f1.9 aperture lenses, which is a good asset if you care about collecting more light and getting good pictures under lower lighting conditions. The camera app is largely the same solution as on the Galaxy S6 Edge, so you have 2 highlighting modes. The auto mode that is self-explanatory, and then the manual pro mode. Thankfully, you can now control the shutter speed and set it for up to 10 seconds for some slick low-light shots. And just like the Note 5, we have a video collage feature, as well as a YouTube live broadcasting mode that has the same premise as Periscope. We like it because its streaming quality can be set up to 1080p and that it shoots video horizontally. The camera delivers outstanding photos filled with plentiful details, rich colors, and striking dynamic range to make it a generally good all-around performer. However, we will say that the Note 5 delivers slightly sharper details upon closer inspection. It's tough to realize it, but when we put the same images side by side, the Note 5's shots are just a hairline more defined. Beyond that, it has the same characteristics. Details are undoubtedly abundant, which gives us some elbow room to crop photos later on without a whole lot lost to the overall quality. The colors reproduced by the camera can sometimes have a hint of saturation, but it seems to be more profound under artificial lighting. And much like everything else, we see a dip with its quality under low light. That's not all that shocking, but its shots are still bright enough to expose details. They might be softer tone, but we're content with that graininess and noise are kept to a minimum. Fortunately, the LED flash produces an effective amount of lighting to brighten up the scene without being too overpowering. We also tested out its long exposure, and we're pretty content with the results. Using the Pro mode and slowly adjusting the shutter speed from 1 second all the way to 10, while keeping it at ISO 100, we see that the image taken with the longer shutter speed is brighter, more detailed, and it doesn't have the soft look of the automatic shot. And finally, it takes some good-looking selfies. It's cool that the editing tools offer real-time adjustment, but we find them to be a bit too artificial, going as far as transforming us into an anime character. Not surprisingly as well, it's a beast of a phone when it comes to video recording. There's enough variety with its recording resolution, so the only major difference between them is the amount of detail produced. Therefore, if you want the highest amount of captured detail, it's best to go with Ultra HD recording. It offers image stabilization to keep things steady, you have clear and distinctive audio recording, you have a gradual exposure adjustment, and it's pretty spot on with its continuous autofocus. It's perhaps one of the most versatile cameras around. It's the same TouchWiz music player we're used to seeing, so there's nothing terribly new here. Now, whether it's the placement of the speaker or something else entirely, the Galaxy S6 Edge's audio output is less than its pint-sized sibling. At 73.1 decibels, it's still incredibly powerful enough to reverberate in tighter confines with a very neutral toned output, yet it's not deafening like the S6 Edge. We get better results listening through the headphone jack since it produces crisp audio with an even balance throughout all audio ranges. Bettering its quality, we can amp things by utilizing the various equalizer options available with its Sound Alive feature. And just like the Note 5, there's an ultra high quality upscaler option in the settings, which Samsung leverages to enhance and upscale audio for a clearer listening experience. We tried it out with a pair of headphones, but we barely noticed a difference with the quality. In fact, it seems as though it's been treated to a boost in treble and bass for a more robust tone, and nothing more. While we don't notice a tremendous difference in our experience, Samsung claims that ultra high quality audio is supported over Bluetooth on Samsung's next generation wireless audio accessories. Setting the display to adaptive mode offers the most ideal video watching experience with the phone. It's pretty superb watching videos on its Super AMOLED screen, since the contrast and color saturation are manipulated to achieve the best possible visual results. And it also helps too that it's a powerhouse to fluidly play all sorts of content. While the extra volume mode is appreciated for those situations where the normal volume through the earpiece isn't enough, we actually find the audio quality with the standard volume to be pretty good and audible, with voices exhibiting a fair amount of fidelity and clearness. Turning on the extra volume mode indeed strengthens the tone, but only by a little bit. Unlike the Note 5, however, there's no hint of crackle that accompanies voices. With the increased footprint, we see higher capacity battery cell here with the Galaxy S6 Edge Plus. Its 3000 mAh battery is a longevity beast, capable of propelling itself through 9 hours and 29 minutes in our battery benchmark tests. That actually beats the results produced by the Galaxy S6, the S6 Edge, and the Note 5 in the process. And we can also attest its fantastic longevity on a real-world basis, where it's enough to get us through a solid 1 day of use. In fact, we generally find it at the 25% mark right before calling it quits for the day. Now, if that's not enough to make you forget about a removable battery, you'll be downright floored knowing that the Galaxy S6 Edge Plus offers one of the fastest recharge times out there. It takes only 80 minutes, which beats the Galaxy S6 Edge. That alone is impressive considering that the S6 Edge employs a smaller battery capacity cell. Lastly, it features built-in wireless charging as an alternative. For the upcoming holiday season, Samsung has two phablets in its roster to compete against the competition, the Note 5 and the Galaxy S6 Edge Plus. After reviewing the Note 5, it's still the ultimate productivity tool that's unrivaled in the space. So where does that leave the other phablet in Samsung's stable? Well, the Galaxy S6 Edge Plus is more that fun smartphone that should appeal to a wider audience. I would say should because of the appeal that accompanies its dual curved display and how it adds to the outstanding aesthetics of the phone's frame. However, it's still in an area of opportunity because the features are wildly underwhelming, not even coming close to what we've seen already with last year's Note Edge. Then we come to its pricing, which makes it even tougher to recommend over the Note 5. Here in the US, the price for the base 32GB model ranges between $768 and $815, while the 64GB model goes for $780 to $920. Those prices are roughly $50 to $90 more than what you could shell out for the Note 5, so that's alarming in itself. Sure, it's expensive, but in all fairness, it's still an incredible high-performing smartphone that produces solid results in every category. Of all the phablets out right now, it's undeniably the best looking out of the bunch and has all the specs and top-notch performance to validate its purchase. Beyond all that, you'll just need to convince yourself that it has more to offer to you than the Note 5.